Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
7:37 on WMAL. Happy Monday morning to you. Brian Neiman minus Brian Wilson was off today. Rick Fowler's in the house this morning. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
How was it waking up for you this morning? You get up early on Saturday mornings, right?
Yeah, but I usually sleep it off Sunday and Monday and Tuesday.
That's usually the way to go. What a difference in weather, by the way, on Saturday. 84, 85 degrees, and then hitting yesterday in the 50s, the high about 50 yesterday with rain. It was like a
heat on last night.
Yeah.
Hot chocolate, blanket.
And then snow in the mountains and in Pittsburgh and Cleveland, Buffalo, maybe getting several inches of snow.
Finally get some skiing in this year.
Right, I know. It is amazing. All right, so over the weekend, Jeb Bush said that he would consider a run for the vice presidency if asked. He would consider, running with Mitt Romney, though he did doubt that he would be ever asked if he would run, although I would say that's not out of the possibility. But here's the question. Could a guy whose last name is Bush run in today's climate, number one? And number two, is it the best thing for the Republicans to have a guy named Bush run, even if it's for a number two? 1-888-630-9625 is the phone number, 1-888-630-WMAL, and you can always text feedback to 68683.
Even George Walker said, in the past week, that if the tax cuts weren't known as the Bush tax cuts, that everything would probably be fine.
Yeah, he doesn't like the fact that those tax cuts are named after him.
Right.
I would wear that as an honor. I don't know why he doesn't like that. I tend to think that it's probably not the best thing to actually have a Bush on the ticket. I think there may be some fatigue on it, even though Jeb Bush is not George W. Bush. I know he's well liked in Florida. He's well respected in Florida. A lot of conservatives like him, and yes, he may add something to the ticket to maybe push Romney a little bit to the right, although how much further to the right, I don't know. But is it worth it to have a guy whose last name is Bush on the ticket? By the way, Marco Rubio was out there, whose name has been mentioned many, many times when it comes to a possible running mate for Mitt Romney, and has said that he doesn't want the job. I said that Jeb would be great.
I hope he'll say yes if future President Romney asks him.
All right, so Rubio is now endorsing Jeb Bush. By the way, we're having
the Florida boys,
We're starting to get this now, where we have endorsements of vice presidential candidates, right? Nominees, guys are out there endorsing other people. So, what do you think about another Bush on the ticket? Is it going to work for Republicans? Is it just a kiss of death? 1-888-630-9625 is the phone number, and you can also text feedback to 68683. Mark in Germantown, you're first up. You're on 105.9 FM and AM 630 WMAL. Brian Neiman, Rick Fowler in. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, no more Bushes, please. The last Bush we had was such a bankrupt president. I mean, I don't remember the numbers, but I think it was in the $500 billion of deficit spending every year. Now we've got a total moron in office, and we're in the trillions. And when we're like Greece, people still won't understand what happened.
But is that fair to say Jeb Bush would be continuing that policy, have Republicans learn their lesson, and would not be a good question?
Fine, then get up on the, get up and take responsibility, Jeb Bush, for what his brother did, and confess to the country of the insanity and turn the situation around.
See, that's the problem. I don't necessarily think it's necessarily a problem with Democrats or even Republicans, but it's a problem with moderates and independents, and probably Tea Party people who would say, well, are you actually going to criticize the Bush administration? And if it were your brother, would you be as likely to criticize the former president as if you were just an everyday Republican? I have a hard time believing that would be the case. Now, do you want to run on the record of George W. Bush? I still don't think you want to do that in 2012, even though George W. Bush looks a lot better than Barack Obama does today. Jay in Alexandria, you're on 105.9 FM and AM 630 WMAL.
Yeah, hey, I like to agree with the first caller there that it's. I think it'd be wrong to have him come along to be president, because you know what? I don't think this country's ready for another Bush in the White House. But also, I think they're going to vote for Barack Obama back in, because there are a bunch of idiots out there I mean, do you agree with that?
Well, there are a lot of idiots out there, yes, sir. One of them, however, is not Mike Rogers, who's a congressman who joins us now from yes, he is on the line with us. Mike Rogers, chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Republican from Michigan, joins us now. Good morning, Congressman. How are you? I know you have a couple of bills. We want to talk about specifics on it, on cybersecurity and the partnership between the private sector and the public sector, the Defense Department, on how to protect things like the power grids, the banking industry. Number one question for you, how big of a concern is it of another or a big giant cyber attack?
Well, I am very, very concerned. Brian, I wanted to give you a little hard time that the great welcome you give me of there's a bunch of idiots up there. And, oh, by the way, next coming up is Mike Rogers.
Yeah, well, we try not to do that. We were waiting for you to show up, and we're glad you're here now.
No, thanks. I'm just kidding. Well, maybe I do qualify. The number was not ringing through, so could have been me, the operator error. This is a huge problem, Brian. I will tell you, not only from an attack, there's three different fronts here that we're facing. One is the criminal front. I think most people are aware of that. People trying to steal your credit card information, be able to steal money from your bank account, your 401k, et cetera. People are fairly aware of that. You have this cyber attack issue where nowadays it's not just that they deny service. In other words, your website goes down or you're not able to interface with the bank for a while. They're so sophisticated now they can actually break your machine, your computer, so that it will not operate, so you won't have access. So they can disrupt, steal data, change data, and then break your network system physically, so you'll have to go through and physically repair your network in order to get it back in operation. So it's going to happen. I mean, there's too much capability in the world. And we're just not ready for this problem.
When it comes to that partnership, where is the line of responsibility from the private sector versus the backdrop or the backing of the federal government? Exactly who in the federal government would be partnering with these private sector industries?
And this is what it is. Right now, you have on your network, there's a lot of people trying to, I think, not tell you exactly what this is all about. Right now, McAfee or Symantec or some other service provides an antivirus protection for your computer. Never perfect because somebody's always working to try to get around it. In some cases, you'll pay extra for that service. Well, this is really simply this, that the federal government, remember, the intelligence agencies have the ability to go overseas and find out what the bad guys are doing, and that's exactly what we pay them to do. So they get malicious source code sometimes even before it gets launched. Now, they can apply that to government computer systems today, but because it's classified, they can't provide it to the private sector to protect your networks, your computers. And so what we're proposing here is really very simple. Create a classified setting in which the government can share that source code, that cyber threat information, to the private sector so they can apply it to their security regiments that they have already exist today.
And
that's really all it is.
Well, what if they don't share it?
Well, then bad things are going to happen. And I'll tell you, a great example is Google got hit, as you recall, back in 2010, and they went in and the Chinese stole all their source code. There's pretty good indication that the government had that information, but because of the law, couldn't share it with Google in order to stop that from happening. And so that to me is a great example. And so we need this cooperation because the bad guys are getting so good. I mean, it's not just the Russians and the Chinese. And by the way, the Chinese have stolen more intellectual property, Brian, in the last few years. It would be equivalent to 50 times the print collection of the United States Library of Congress. And that is our future economic prosperity. Because they're taking it back to China, re-engineering it, putting it in production, and competing illegally against U.S. companies.
All right. We're going to have to leave it there. I'm out of time. I wish we had more time to talk about it, and perhaps later on this week. I know these are very important bills, and they're highly controversial. And thank you for coming on, and hopefully to talk to you a little bit later down the road. Thank you, Congressman Rogers.